past 15 years, we've been really focusing on child abuse prevention, trying to teach children how to prevent abuse. It's fascinatingly easy. Basically, the abusers self-select. The abusers look for children who are naive about their bodies, are naive about their ability, the right that they have to keep themselves safe for their own personal space, and they look for children who aren't tight with their families. It's basically that's why it works. It's kind of hard to explain how you can get a little child to protect themselves against an adult. But once you understand that the adults are afraid of educated children because those kids are going to tell their parents, and the kids are self-aware. So the abuser, that the grooming process is they look for kids, unfortunately, that it's easy for them to abuse. And, we've been working, advocating for victims and other things like that, but my real passion is to educate parents so that they can have comfortable conversations with the kids in the first place.
Now, educating parents, educating the children in the Orthodox community, in the Haredi Orthodox community, it's a whole different ballgame, right?
Well, it's the norms in communities are different, obviously. That's why we made different versions of the book. Not only to address that it should look like the children's lives. So the background and the toys they play with, what their apartments look like. But of course, norms are different. Typically, a Haredi community typically is more sheltered. They're less. They'll have less media, internet, TV, whatever you want to call it. And so it becomes obviously much more important to get this information to them because the children tend to be more naive. I raised my children in a Haredi community. We're very proud of the fact that we were able to insulate them and shield them from it, but it becomes deadly in this issue of child abuse if they're so sheltered that they don't understand that there are people there who might harm them and that they need to be educated about their space.
So is there an initial deterrence, which might be even significant? And we don't want to talk about these things. As you said, we educate to be more naive, to be more pure. We don't want to discuss these things in our house.
So, when we started talking about this 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, that was the reaction among many people, not just Haredi community. People don't want to believe that somebody sitting next to you, in a synagogue or on a park bench or working in your office or a neighbor could possibly do such horrible things. But things are changing. People are understanding, even in the most Haredi communities. Believe it or not, I got a phone call from one of the communities outside Jerusalem, outside Yerushalayim, that was transplanted from Mea Sharim. I kid you not. They called me in America a couple of weeks ago and ordered 250 books of the Haredi Hebrew book to give out to their parents at a seminar that they were doing. So things are changing. We got incredible encouragement from Reb Chaim Kanievsky, from his daughter, Rebbetzin Kolodetsky, Rabbi Silman, who's one of the top rabbis in the Haredi world, especially on this issue. He's a head of a bezdin. He wrote me a letter of approval or whatever, a haskama, and I think a lot of the issues that we typically think of center around the issue of going to the authorities, and that's in some communities that's still a sore spot. That to get the people comfortable to go outside the community to the authorities. I would be in denial if I said, we're at 100% that are ready to do that. But what we've managed to do is separate the education piece, which we're getting absolutely no pushback from, and this other piece.
Now, we talked about the education in the community, but how about the predators themselves? Is there a different profile when we're talking about these acts and these attacks in the Haredi community, in the religious community?
I probably wouldn't be expert enough to really answer that, but I haven't seen a difference like that. It's a sickness, and it's evil, and it's the same everywhere. Nobody believes it happens in their community. Nobody wants to believe it. I don't think the predators behave in a different way. It may be more problematic when you have this environment where you say, like, everybody in here is in our group, and everybody outside we're a little bit more detached from, or perhaps suspicious of, so that might work in the favor of a predator because he's in the group.
So you're saying that there's not specifically more predators, but it's easier for them to act in their communities.
It could be easier. I'm saying it could be easier when people are clearly identifiable, and it's a small community, and like everybody knows everybody, and the families are more likely to be, married to each other. That would create a greater sense of community, which is beautiful. There's a great part to that. In terms of a social network, in terms of friendships, in terms of all of that, but that can become problematic in this arena of teaching children to protect their space.
Okay, now we talked about the education, we talked about the community. Let's talk about advocacy. And what you are doing is really going out against specific predators, against them with their names out there.
The highest profile specific case that I got involved with was Nehemiah Weberman. It was a very high-profile case in Williamsburg, in Brooklyn, and in New York. And that was an unlicensed therapist in the Hasidic community of Williamsburg. And I made a very difficult decision to publicly stand with the victim. And that was it was very challenging. But as you may know, now in Israel, I warned people in Har Nof that Yonah Weinberg, who's a registered level 3 sex offender, I warned them that he moved in. I sent some tweets, and he sued me for slander. This was 3 years ago, and we're actually going to trial in March.
And it's very easy for them to leave America, where they're registered and all, and come into Israel because we're talking about Jews.
Yeah, because we have this beautiful Chok HaShvut, the law of return, which really is, it's part of the DNA of Israel. Anyone's welcome to come. But again, it becomes a problem in this case because predators can come in. There are other high-profile cases. Recently, Weinberg certainly isn't the only one. There was Malka Leifer, Abraham Andrewitz a decade ago or more. So they come in under the Chok HaShvut, under the law of return, and there is no sex offender registry in Israel, and that's a big problem. The police have data on the sex offenders, but it's not public in America. You type in your zip code or a person's name. You can search a number of ways, and you can immediately, if you type in your zip code, I live in zip code 10952, just type in the zip code, click, and you see all the sex offenders with their address. They're responsible to register with the police. It's just the Wild West here. So people come in, and so I just want to clarify, I'm not fighting against the predators. I'm keeping children safe. And it's not a battle against these predators. It's getting this life-saving knowledge to parents. Parents need to know when there's a sex offender moving into their community. Many of them are extremely charming when they want to be, and they don't wear a mark of Cain on their forehead. You can't tell them apart from anybody else. Very often they'll get into a profession where they're involved with children. They'll do bar mitzvah lessons, or a therapist, a teacher, or just a community member. And in fact, like by the case of Weinberg, when we first, a few of us, Magain, I wasn't the only one that were in the community about him. When we first put out the information, we got emails from housewives, people in the community, who actually invited him for a Shabbat meal. And it was only the warning that allowed people to take stock and say, hey, whoa, this guy doesn't belong in my home. Right now we're partnering with Tahel, and I've been, in America we sell the book, in bookstores through Art Scroll. But here in Israel, we're really raising money to give them out extremely subsidized or actually free to families who attend the parenting class. And we're partnering with Tahel. If anybody wants to get in touch with Tahel, they can look them up online. We're partnering with them, and we're providing free books for the Dati Leumi community and for the Haredi community for any families that want to attend a parenting class.